Hello, and welcome to another episode of As Told by Gonzo. Thank you so much for returning. Today, we're going to be talking about the new reboots from Netflix of Unsolved Mysteries. Now, Unsolved Mysteries is a show that ran from, I believe, 1987 to 2010. Obviously, there was a lot of breaks in between. But I used to watch the show all the time as a kid. It was like Goosebumps, X Files, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Ghost Hunters, and of course Unsolved Mysteries. Unsolved Mysteries was the more of the realistic one. These things are actually happening around the world, and I remember me and my cousins would get terrified and not want to go to sleep ever. So the show really is based off of there's about three or four segments throughout the show, and they deal with like unsolved crimes, unsolved people being missing, unexplained kind of ghost sightings or UFOs, and you get like a compilation of different segments throughout the show. And what I really loved about the original show was Robert Stack. He was a genius in what he did. He was kind of the narrator throughout the show, and even if the segment kind of sucked and wasn't really that interesting, his narration throughout the segment really made it creepy and interesting and kind of scary. Some of my favorite episodes are the DB Cooper episode, just because it took place around the town that I'm from. But the creepiest episode I've ever seen of Unsolved Mysteries was the Cindy James episode, and that just whole unsolved mystery in itself is very very creepy, and it deals with a lot of like mental illness and things like that. So that sense of realism to it is just really horrifying and creepy. So I first seen the trailer of Netflix's reboot of Unsolved Mysteries a couple weeks ago, and the first 10 seconds I was like, man, this looks really good. And from being a big fan of the original series, I have to say I really enjoy this series. It was a big difference step going with not having a narrator or not having a host. In that sense, you kind of have to rely on your stories to be fully interesting, to kind of keep everything going at a steady pace. I was really eerie about that because if I see it as if your story is not very interesting, it's not going to hold up. It's not going to keep my interest. It's not going to want me to keep going through the episode. And I feel like even in the old series, even when the story wasn't that interesting, as long as you had a host going on and narrating it, it added to somewhat of a creepy vibe to it. Probably my favorite episode of all of them is the first one that deals with Ray Rivera. He was a up and coming filmmaker from the Baltimore area, and one night he got a disturbing phone call and he left his house and he was missing for like a week, and then they found him in a local really high class Baltimore hotel. And I won't really try to get into spoilers, but yeah, his mystery and his death are very interesting. And I actually looked up more about that whole story, and I found out that there's a whole book about it. It is actually my favorite of the six. My least favorite was the UFO episode. I really just couldn't get into that. Maybe I've seen too many ghost hunters or too many UFO shows to really get into those kind of stories. The one that really caught me off guard was, I think it's episode 4, and it takes place in France, and it is all episode in French. So you really have to read the subtitles on this one. I don't remember any episodes from the original series that were all in a different language, and I thought this was kind of cool. It kind of put a new spin on it. It's about this family who's from France, and their dad is going through this like weird like midlife crisis. He's losing a lot of his money, and he ends up murdering his whole family, and then he disappears for no rhyme or reason at all. And according to a lot of their family and friends, they really didn't think that he would do anything like that. And the way he hid the bodies and the way he kind of gave himself like a week to escape, and to he didn't really feel like he was at risk of getting caught. Obviously, none of these cases have been solved yet, and I feel like that is something that's going to be awesome about this new series, is they're going to be able to solve these crimes hopefully, and later on through every volume that comes out, there's going to be like a little update. And that would be kind of cool because it's something, a lot of these stories are, an hour long. I believe the original series was an hour long episodes, but they focused on like 4 different stories. So each story was roughly around 10 to 15 minutes. These episodes are 45 minutes long and it just focuses on one story. But overall, I really enjoy the show. Some stories are better than others. But let me know in the comments what your favorite episode from the original series was, if you watched the original Unsolved Mysteries. And let me know what you thought of this new series. I think it's great. I think it's I don't know, maybe I went in with super low expectations, but I really like what they're doing with it. It feels very Hollywood. It feels very polished. Everything's really shot really well, and it definitely feels like a documentary. But the core of the show is really still there. It's really still intact, and I'm looking forward to watching more of the episodes as they come along. So that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.